Reshape Array is another array node found under Arrays and Reshape Array. What this will do is it'll actually reshape your array into another array. So in this first example, it's not always clear what the Reshape Array does when you have a one-dimension array into a one-dimension array. So for example, I want my dimension size to be just 3. So I run this code, I get elements 0, 1, and 2. So I get 3 elements of this array, starting from, and this is something to remember, it starts from always this 0th element. So on a 1D array, it doesn't really look like it's doing much. So if I go to 4, it just adds that last element here, and that's it. But if I was to change this up a little bit, so let's grab this array. Here I built the same example, but now with two-dimensional arrays. So if I were to change this row to a 1, and always remember, most of these array nodes, if there's 2 connectors on the dimension size, it's always row and then column in that order. So if I was to run this, obviously nothing happens because my column is 0. So if I put 1 and 1 and I run this, I get a 1, which is this very first element. So now if I tell the row to be, let's say 2, and I run this, now we get 1 and 2, but notice this 1 and 2 is now going in this column 1, where if we look at the original array, it's column 1 and then this is column 2. So what it's doing roughly is, if I make this a little bit larger and I run this, we can kind of look at it a little differently, where it's building an array, or it's reshaping the array, that's its name, into a new array, and it's always starting with this very first element. So it's going 1, 2, 3, and then I told it it's only 3 columns, so then it goes underneath, and then it goes 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Where in this example, it's the same thing as, imagine this two-dimensional array got smashed to 1D, so it's just 1 through 5, and then 6 through 10 go right behind it. And then I'm telling you, hey, the new array is only going to be this size, but you have to start from this first coordinate here. So you just go 1, 2, 3, and then you go underneath it, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Similar to how like Excel, if you fill out a bunch of rows and then you hit enter, a lot of times it'll reset to that first row. It's kind of the same concept with this. So if I did 4 rows and I hit run, notice it fills in that 10, and now it just fills in some placeholders for zeros. But what if I wanted to cut a column off? So if I go to 2 columns, but I want 4 rows, and I hit run, notice we still have 1 through 8. So this time just went 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Where I'll show again, if I go back to 3 rows, we still have that data, 1 through 8. We're not cutting off this row, we're almost telling the array to wrap around our new defined, reshaped array. So, well, that's 1. So see, 1 through 4 got printed, where on 2 we get our 2 back through 8. So this is the reshape array. It works the same way with one-dimensional arrays. So if I were to run this, it functions the same. So the 1 through 5 get kept, just like with the 2D array. So kind of when I said that second row gets added to the back of the first row, it builds a 1D array. I mean, it actually does, in a sense, create a 1D array out of it. So this could come really in handy when, let's say you have a 1D array, so you have some data, and you have like a 1, you have some data, and you have like a 0, and some more data, and let's say another 1. So this example could be, let's say here's some data, and a 1 means the device passed, and a 0 means the device failed. But for some reason, you get it out of a machine in a 1D array. You can use this reshape array to create it for a much easier format. So now instead of kind of looking at these, we can look at this much easier. Say, oh, yep, this device, this is the data, this passed, this failed. We could always take this wire and add all of our other array components to do the manipulation that we need. So this is reshaping array. It definitely comes in handy when you need it. It's not used very often, but when you need it, it is very important. So hope this was helpful, and stay tuned for more.